Okay, this video is going to be about the steering stops and a little bit about the power steering testing to make sure the stops are working right. So what the stop on this heavy truck is, right here, there's a bolt that threads into the spider that's on the wheel end that all the brake components and everything like that mount to. And like I said, it's got a lock nut here and it's adjustable, and this one has kind of a square looking head. There's a machined out place on the axle that this bolt is going to hit, and there's one of these on each side of the truck. So this limits how sharp the tires turn on the truck, because if your tires turn too sharp, then they want to slide or roll over kind of on in an awkward position that tears things up, tears the tires up, gives you problems. So if you've ever operated a farm tractor very much, you know that they turn really sharp so that you can maneuver in tight areas and whatnot with the tractor. But if you're going too fast and turn it as hard as it will go, the tire kind of tries to roll under, and this is problematic, of course, and you learn not to turn the wheels really sharp if you're going fast on the tractor. So anyway, trucks don't turn as sharp because they turn at higher speeds and whatnot, and the truck's longer, and just anyway, that has to be adjusted properly. So the angle that's on it would be covered during like a front end alignment. There's turntables with degrees on them, so we'll get into that in a video in the future, but that tells you how many degrees it turns to actually adjust the stop on the axle. But then there's also pressure relief, or technically a kind of a stop that's in a lot of the gearboxes. So what they basically want is about 1/8 of an inch before that stop touches the axle. They want the power steering pressure to be dumped in the gearbox so that you don't damage things by holding a lot of hydraulic pressure against the stop. That would contribute with the vehicle rolling and the hydraulic force being exerted on it, the stop being damaged. So the way you would check that would be to install this power steering analyzer here. You could use just a gauge. If you're using just a gauge and you're just checking the wheel stops, then most trucks have these little CompuCheck fittings here. The little rubber plug comes off of this, and your hose for the pressure gauge snaps onto that. It'll read pressure in the steering system. So with the truck running, you would watch the gauge, turn it, and watch the stop, and you'd want to see all the pressure on this gauge, which is going to be about 1800 to 2250 psi. You'd want to see that pressure dump about 1/8 of an inch before it hits the stop. We have this power steering analyzer. We're going to do a video on everything that it does next week, but we could tie it into the system and just use the gauge part of it and make sure that the hydraulic pressure is being dumped right before it hits the stop, so you don't have hydraulic pressure and the force of the truck trying to turn pushing on that stop and damaging it. So that's what you're looking for. And I know the Red Freight fails that because it still has hydraulic pressure on it when it's up against the stop. So if we had this hooked up to the Red Freightliner that you've been using for most of your test sheets, you would see that the pressure stays on there when it's against the stop. So that would be a no-no, and we'd have to adjust the stops in the gearbox to dump that pressure before it hits the stop on the axle. So that should kind of clarify that. One little quick thing I want to sneak in on the end of this video is this little set of tools right here. We talked last week about the tie rod being adjustable to set the toe on the vehicle, having the left hand and right hand threads, and I said the sleeve in the middle turns to adjust the toe. So if you're looking at the tires from the top, are they closer together in the front than they are in the back? That's the toe setting. Basically, you want them both to point like straight down the road when the truck is driving straight down the road. But anyway, to adjust that, you have this little kit here. All the tie rod sleeves are different sizes, so this little kit hooks onto a notch once you take the clamp bolts loose. It lays in here. Your 1/2 inch drive brake over or ratchet goes on here, and this is kind of like a little spanner, and it rotates that tube to adjust it. So this is the tool that would adjust the toe. I just want to go ahead and demonstrate it while I had the video rolling, and that way you would know kind of how that works.